The saga that keeps unfolding is Pirate Software, and the movement he so desperately attempted to end has now become borderline unstoppable, and has now reached even greater heights and milestones, which I'm sure annoys him even more with every passing day. Also, just wanted to say that YouTube has changed their algorithm yet again in case you don't know. So, if you like my content, please consider liking the video if I bring any value and commenting what you think as well. Otherwise, YouTube won't recommend this video among others. Yep, it sucks, I know. Anyway, back to the video. And despite this, Pirate Software still won't admit that he's wrong, even if the overwhelming evidence points otherwise. There's quite a bit to go over here from Stop Killing Games and more, but firstly, let's talk about Pirate and then we'll get into that later on. But Pirate is losing subscribers by a lot since he first took his stance. As seen here from Dexerto.com, Pirate lost over 100,000 subscribers already since his stance on Stop Killing Games. Which, maybe for him, that might not sound like a lot, but hubris can only take you so far. The guy has over 2 million subscribers, so even at his level, 100,000 is not a small number to suddenly lose. And most channels would kill to gain that many subscribers, not just in 2 weeks, but even a year and then some. The hubris and the entitlement to some people kind of disgust me, I'm not going to lie, that they believe that they are somehow entitled, if you will, to the success they have without proving why they should have that success in the future. Although, this shouldn't really surprise me considering this clip just got unearthed where Pirate Software was called out by none other than his own dad for not wishing him a happy birthday. To show you who we're talking about, please watch this.
But since you did, last month was my birthday and you missed it. You didn't call me. Neither did your brother. You guys both ignored me for my birthday.
That isn't true. I sent you a text.
True. No, you did not.
Shit.
That was last year.
Shit.
I got nothing. You sent me one last year.
Did I send you one last year? Am I your son? Oh, man. Yeah. It was last year. Wow.
I want everybody to know that Thor did not say anything to his father for his birthday a month ago.
If it makes you feel any better, I didn't text you anything after that last happy birthday, so it's still the same one. It still counts.
Your logic sucks.
That's sad, man. I lost my dad a few years ago myself, and I would do anything to have him back, so it makes me more angry than anything to see people like Pirate here take their own father for granted when, honestly, you really shouldn't do that. These are the most important people in your life, man. You can't even wish the guy a happy birthday. The guy who not only raised you, but also gave you every opportunity, especially at Blizzard, because your dad, like you've said a million times, was the reason why you got into the games industry as a Nepo baby to begin with, because he worked at Blizzard. I also love how his dad even makes fun of how Pirate demands people call him Thor instead of Jason.
Thor.
He even corrects himself in a condescending way. Dude, even your dad thinks you're an entitled brat. I mean, that's crazy. But this is who we're dealing with. The same guy who still refuses to admit that he's wrong or apologize about Stop Killing Games despite things crumbling around him. Recently, he got asked via a stream if he would apologize, and here's what he said.
Put up a video saying you were wrong with every situation and the internet move on. I am not doing that. I don't give a Yeah, simply bend the knee and lie about how you feel and everyone will stop bullying you. That's a great idea, dude. Yeah, no.
I do admit that if Pirate did apologize at this point, while it would likely calm some of the fires, it would be an admission of defeat on his behalf. And due to how big his ego is, I get why he wouldn't want to apologize from an egotistical perspective, but the guy is still wrong. At the very least, what he could do is try to explain why he believes Stop Killing Games is wrong. But I think he knows that even if he did that, the internet would respond in kind and probably destroy him all over again, because his opinions on Stop Killing Games are kind of pointless regardless at this point. Even recently, you had other YouTubers like Coding Jesus, which I covered in a previous video, who exposed Pirate Software's coding and how poorly optimized it was. He also did a follow-up video recently where Coding Jesus went further into Pirate's coding background and found even more mistakes and flat-out examples of Pirate making code that somehow turns his game Heartbound into an engine nightmare. Take a look at this.
And so I thought to myself, wouldn't it be nice if I can address Thor's critique by finding code that he's written off stream to really get into the details? I was able to extract the code that he's written using data.win and the Undertale mod tool, and I'd like to focus on that for today's code review. Now, I know that a lot of people might be thinking, why are you doing a review on old code? Well, I decided to compare that 2018 version of the code that Thor himself distributed with the code available in the demo version of Heartbound, and at least at the places that I found major issues, there wasn't any difference. Now, he actually checks collisions twice for each pixel, and he doesn't have any early exit should his second instance of that check not execute.
Then Coding Jesus and Level 5 Fish, another creator, took another look deeper into Pirate's code, and yeah, this is just watch this clip too.
Level 5 Fish decided to profile it against his own surface-based implementation. The comparison code is available on GitHub, linked in the description, and the full 7-minute explanation by Level 5 Fish.
So I've taken the lighting code and I've imported it into GameMaker. Now, the only things I've changed are this line right here, where it says it's just a conditional basically, and I've just replaced it with true, meaning it's always going to run. And the reason for doing that is because whenever this was here, it would just flicker. Notice something, we are getting less than 20 FPS. That code is running. The collision check and the drawing the pixels 80,000 times. It is using 99.675% of performance, roughly. This is the implementation that I came up with. I'll note it's really nothing complex. It's not super difficult, I think, for most people to make something similar. 0.238% performance. The idea is pretty clear here, just how absolutely abysmal this is for performance.
So as you saw, the code that Pirate has made is completely unoptimized and somehow almost uses 100% of the performance of the game just to run. You may be thinking, oh wow, his game Heartbound might look amazing then, right? Except no, in case you don't know, Heartbound instead looks like this. The game should in theory be able to run on like a toaster since graphically and all of that. The game is about as technologically advanced as a Super Nintendo game at best from the 90s. But as Coding Jesus and Level 5 Fish showed, Pirate is so bad apparently at making video games despite claiming that he's a 20-year-old vet of the industry, that his Super Nintendo-looking Undertale clone is about as optimized as a discarded box in your closet that is full of cables from various consoles and TVs and more that have just been thrown in there to get rid of them pretty much. This is the kind of guy we're talking about here, which is why I think his hubris in not retracting his stance on stop killing games is only going to cause the movement to continue to get bigger and bigger as time goes on, which I'm sure will continue to piss Pirate off. And actually, before we talk more about Pirate, let's swing over to the movement for a second. So recently, a prominent European politician has come out in support of stop killing games. As this article says, it's this guy here on the right whose name is Nikolai Stefanuta. I have no idea how to pronounce all those extra little sprinkles on his name. So I'm just going to call the guy Nikolai, or maybe it's Nikolai. Anyway, if you don't mind, for all our sakes, let's just move on. I'm going to call the guy Nikolai. So this Nikolai guy is the vice president of the European Union Parliament. So this guy is really high up there in the food chain in terms of importance. Nikolai responded to Stop Killing Games via his Instagram, which someone of course translated. Nikolai's official position as a higher up in European government, he said this: I stand with the people who started this citizen initiative. I signed and will continue to help them. A game once sold belongs to the customer, not the company. So this is a big endorsement in case you don't know, because Pirate Software obviously believes that Stop Killing Games could never reasonably reach the upper echelons of government or gain support from them. But here we have a man who quite literally sits within the realm of law and order, voicing his endorsement of this movement, and firmly believes that games should be owned by the people that buy them and not the company. Like, it could be all so easy. The only people who would be against this are those who enjoy keeping their boots on our necks, like Pirate obviously does. You've been seeing a lot of Infamous 2 and Killzone 2 footage in this video already that I'm using, and yeah, that's on purpose by the way. You see, I want games like these and more to be readily available to play in more places. Currently, as of this video being made anyway, Infamous 2 and Killzone 2 are kind of just lost and relegated to the PlayStation 3 ecosystem, and that's it. There's no remastered versions, no options to maybe play these games on Steam or wherever, unless you pirate them, I guess, but you know, you get the point. But officially, these games are just kind of marooned and forgotten about, which breaks my heart because I love these games so much. Sure, I guess you could stream them, but come on, guys. That's not the same as, playing them natively. There's plenty of games I want brought over to this current generation to be remastered and brought back up so that we can all enjoy them again. Besides those games I mentioned, yeah, I still want my Transformer games back, and I would love to replay stuff like Castlevania Lords of Shadow as well, which is also on console anyway, lost on the PS3 and Xbox 360 as well. Even Bloodborne is still sitting at 30 FPS on PS4 right now. There's so many games that I want remastered and taken care of. But currently, there's just no way officially to do so. These games are either lost due to license renewals or sheer laziness on publishers' behalf. But if you were to ask someone like Pirates, we just don't own these games either way, so it's not up to us, despite the fact for many of these games that I spoke on, I still own the PS3 hard copies of all these games and more, and what that Nikolai guy said is right. We should own the games that we buy. I really hate how everything is now tied to these corporations' will and no one else's, and it can't be regulated or even questioned. And it's getting egregious because take the Switch 2 right now. So there's a problem going around where people who use MIG or MIG cartridges, which are basically a Nintendo Switch cartridge that has many games loaded on them instead of one, obviously, well, Nintendo can detect this when you play it on your Switch 2 and, brick your console. That's pretty bad, so a lot of people are getting their Switch 2s bricked, so their $450 American console purchase is basically useless now. And yes, those cartridges are technically pirating. However, the issue here is that people are actually buying Switch 2 games, then re-uploading these games onto these counterfeit cartridges, placing them back in their cases, and either selling them back to places like GameStop or retailers for credit, or in this story's case that's on screen right now, they're also selling it to other Nintendo players via places like Facebook Marketplace. So why are they doing that? Well, because these Nintendo users are pretty much buying a game, keeping it to themselves, then returning the game without the actual official cartridge, by instead using a fake one that looks legit and then getting credit for that game back so that they can buy another game, keep that cartridge too, re-upload it to a fake cartridge again, etc., etc. So these Nintendo users are effectively gaming the system and getting multiple full Nintendo games for the price of pretty much one purchase or maybe two at best. But what they're returning to these stores or these marketplaces are basically fake Nintendo cartridges with the games fully uploaded onto them. So they may look legit at first, but what ends up happening is another person buys this used version of the game, they put it into their Nintendo Switch 2, Nintendo's system detects it and goes, uh-oh, you're playing a pirated version of this game, aren't you? And then, boom, your console is bricked and you're banned. Yes, so due to the greed and laziness of other players, legit customers are getting screwed over. Thankfully, in that Engadget article, at least that user was able to get their Switch 2 restored by Nintendo after explaining what happened and I guess destroying the fake cartridge, I would assume. But the point still stands that what is going on with Nintendo here is a murky gray area that is resulting in a bunch of people losing access to their games. And quite literally finding out in real time that they genuinely own nothing despite spending money on it. Which irks me a lot, because you buying a Switch 2 and all of these games and these peripherals, only to find out that technically what you're doing is, in a sense, just renting all of these from Nintendo is kind of insane to me. And this isn't just Nintendo, it's technically also PlayStation, even Steam. We don't own these games. And any stupid hiccup in the software could cause all of us to lose our libraries in an instant, and we can't do anything about it. And it's why it's so important that these laws get challenged and hopefully changed, because what this meta has done to video games as a whole is really only going to cause more people in the future to pirate their games in defiance of the industry's rules. Because if you own nothing you buy, then stealing something you can't own isn't illegal then in these people's eyes. And this is where things get muddier, right? Because the fabric between these two sides is now blending and it's not for the better. So circling back to that European Union higher up guy, Nikolai, him endorsing this is a big win. And hopefully it can help the initiative move its way up the ranks to hopefully and actually change how things are done. Because remember, there's a big reason why they don't want it to change. Because video games, as an industry, makes more money than movies and music combined. So of course they want to keep more of the pie themselves if they can. Because if this Pandora's box does get open, the industry will never be able to close it again to turn this back in their favor, and they know that. Especially when in 2023, as seen here, you had websites saying that CEOs of places like 2K, which owns Grand Theft Auto and Borderlands, claiming that they think games should be paid per hour that you play. However, what they said there wasn't exactly right. Again, mind you, this was from 2 years ago, but shows you how these kinds of people see and value how their products are sold. What Strauss Zelnick, that's the CEO of 2K by the way, actually said was this. In terms of pricing for any entertainment property, basically the algorithm is the value of the expected entertainment usage, which is to say that the per hour value times the number of expected hours, plus the terminal value that's perceived by the customer and ownership if the title is owned or subscribed to. And you'll see that that bears out in every kind of entertainment vehicle. By that standard, our frontline prices are still very, very low because we offer many hours of engagement. The value of the engagement is very high. So I think the industry as a whole offers a terrific price to value opportunity for consumers. That doesn't necessarily mean that the industry has pricing powers or wants to have pricing power. However, there is a great deal of value offered. Except they do have pricing power since Nintendo and more are now charging even more money for their experiences while normalizing the concept of you owning nothing. What this ends up doing is taking what Strauss Zelnick had and then cranking that knob to 120% in comparison. The point of all of this is that the power does need to be more so in the player's hands, and yet instead these types have done everything they can to ensure that you have as little power as possible going into the future. And if you go against it, you're ridiculed and shamed like Pirate Software has tried to do with Stop Killing Games. And yet despite this, the European Union, which is the battleground for this whole thing, has attempted, as seen here from Dexerto, to double down on why the movement cannot work and will never pass. They released a 5-page document for all the reasons as to why this can't pass, as you're seeing on screen here. They come up with all kinds of reasons, but none of them offer solutions to the problem. Only excuses to hopefully stifle the movement, as they state early on, which reads, "The decision to discontinue a video game's online services is multifaceted and is never taken lightly and must always be a matter of choice. When it does happen, the industry ensures that players are given fair notice of the prospective changes in compliance with local consumer protection laws." That's nice, but all this means is they just made it law to screw you over and so that you can't legally screw them over basically for their decisions. Although, I found this part of their document rich for all the wrong reasons. They start out saying that video games are unique and unlike other mediums, which is true. That games have many moving parts that must be fine-tuned and crafted with care, which is also true. They also try to justify this by saying that these investments are needed to compete in the marketplace and these services can last for decades. Although it's here where they get specific and say this: "The right to decide how, when, and for how long to make an online video game services available to players is vital in justifying this cost and fostering continued technical innovation. As rights holders and economic entities, video game companies must remain free to decide when an online game is no longer commercially viable and to end continued server support for that game." Well, that's interesting, isn't it? When it comes to the freedom of the video game marketplace, the only voices that should be heard or honored in their opinion are not you, the player, but only those in the suits that are making the millions. So they need to be free and be allowed to say or do what they want, but you wanting to own your games? What are you, some kind of monster? How dare you even insinuate such an idea, or at least that's how this is worded. It says more though. Notice how their big concern is that maintaining these games from an online perspective would simply cost them more money. It's never been about your money being taken for granted for playing the game, only the other way around that really matters. But how they further say this movement would have a negative impact on the development of online games and a chilling effect, that's their words, on game design. They ultimately say that it would affect safety concerns and more, so all of this nonsense is to justify why they can charge you now $80 American for a digital game and pull it from the service whenever they want to. And the only games, by the way, that last for decades, as they claimed in the report, are really just few and far between. Most of these online games that ask for your money rarely even make it to a decade these days, if that of the service. Meaning that these games, unlike movies or TV, they do have an expiration date, and yeah, that is the problem here. Because video games are not meat packed in plastic boxes to be sold at the grocery store. They're art made by hundreds of people. But in these people's eyes, your games should be respected about as much as an expired box of tuna at the supermarket instead. When the opposition's biggest argument against why you can't own the video games you purchase is simply, yeah, but what about us? You know these people are out of touch. All they care about is money. Literally, that's it. They don't care how much you like a game. Only that if you buy it and the DLC packs when it releases. I know executives are running things as sort of nothing new, but this is getting egregious. This industry is being strangled by a bunch of out-of-touch people in suits that are drinking free coffee every single day looking at graphs that have to be explained to them, thinking that we need this movement to die so that they can afford another yacht in the future. These people genuinely don't care about you. They just want to keep pressing their boots harder on your neck, hoping that they hear a popping sound so they can laugh at you while they do it. And I hope that Stop Killing Games completely destroys this backwards ideology, and that it becomes so unstoppable that it splinters into every country's legislation in the world. And no, I'm not kidding, because I'm tired of these people. They're the reason why even if your single-player games these days can be locked out of your libraries because of some online error nonsense authentication thing. All I wanted was to be left alone to play video games in peace. Then these morons got really greedy and injected all sorts of stupid stuff into video games. And now here I am, doing YouTube because of them. These moronic executives turned me into this. I just want you to know that. So now that they're holding their bellies going, oh, it hurts. Oh, I simply just do not care anymore. I hope that Stop Killing Games destroys all of it, changes it, and fixes everything, and that people like Pirate Software, who again doesn't even text his own dad on his own birthday for God's sakes, are the exact kind of people we need to listen to even less.
Jason, Thor.
I do this for one reason only, okay? Because I love video games with every part of my soul, and I don't want them ruined by these freaks and more. I'll leave a link in the description to this article, as well as Coding Jesus' video too, by the way, in case you want to check it out for everything that he says in it. But what do you think about all of this? Let me know in the comments. Please like the video, otherwise YouTube will not recommend this at all anymore due to their new algorithm, which is really annoying. But thank you for watching. Subscribe to keep up to date. I'll see you next time. Everyone take care of yourselves, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Have a great day.